Okay, so for those of you who are joining us today, we have wonderful human resources professionals here to share job search advice with you. Our panelists are Andrea Seeley with Columbia Safety and Supply. Andrea is the Human Resources Manager. Next, we have Chris Baker. She is the Chief Operating Officer with JobFindersUSA. And we have Courtney Hall, who is a recruiting coordinator for the Missouri Department of Social Services. So thank you, ladies, for joining us today. So we have a set list of questions we're going to ask, but to the audience, if you have questions that come to mind, please feel free to enter them in the chat box. Michelle is going to be monitoring that chat box and will announce those questions as you send them. So don't be shy at all. So ladies, the first question is kind of a three-part question, which Michelle and I love those. What is the best way each of you find applicants for open positions? With that, how do you screen applicants? Do you have humans looking at all of them? Do you use an automated system that runs through those? What's your process? And then how important do you view LinkedIn or college-specific platforms when you are going through your recruiting process? Who would like to go first?
I'll go. Oh, and then my camera sometimes it's close. I appreciate it being farther away so you guys aren't, okay. Anyways, I'm Andrea. I'm glad that you guys are here today. We know it's a weird time to be alive, so any insights, I'm sure that we'll all have very different approaches and ideas, and some of the stuff will remain the same. But the best way, in my opinion, is a personal referral. That is the preferred method always, because the people that are bringing people to us understand us, our values, what we're looking for, the type of company that we are, and they've already kind of thought that we might be a good fit for someone. The other methods that we use are ZipRecruiter. We have an applicant tracking system through our HRIS system, which manages a whole lot of the pieces of the HR part of our life. But ZipRecruiter, Monster, Indeed, all of those pull in together. And then I look at every single application still. I had someone on my team before they had a career change. So it's back to just me. So that's a lot. There's a lot happening right now, but we have teams that then vet them. So we'll go through at a high level, then we'll push them to a hiring team in particular. They'll make elections for interviews, and then we'll bring people in either in person or virtual. We are still in person. And then LinkedIn, we use that quite a bit also for recruiting. We post specifically to there. And then we find a lot of professional candidates that way in particular. So also people that are looking to relocate, it seems like a good platform for us in that way as well. I do not have the time to use it proactively to recruit for candidates, but I know a lot of groups do. But that's a little bit about how we're doing it for our 5 locations. If you don't mind, I'm going to say we're an industrial distribution company. We did business in 70 countries nationwide last year, and we have 5 locations: Missouri, Georgia, Texas, California, and Colorado right now. We're looking to acquire the assets of other businesses also in the Northeast area and then in the Toronto area. So we continue to grow. So we have some relocation options as well, and all hiring goes through me here at our corporate office in Columbia. I've been with our group 6 years. This is actually my 6th anniversary today. And then I started on the sales side of the business. So we also have a little atypical career path sometimes at our group too, because we're still growing. So that was a lot more than you asked for.
Okay. Courtney or Chris, what are your thoughts?
Sure. So the best way that we find applicants, we represent hundreds of companies all over Missouri. And so we kind of have our niche of what Job Finders likes to look for, but definitely I would second Andrea on referrals. If you can find a professional in the industry that you're looking at entering and kind of network with them, referrals are huge. Job boards, we definitely use all of the job boards that are out there. We do LinkedIn, we do Indeed, we do Zip. We do Facebook. We do a lot of organic searches as well. And it kind of relates to the referrals, but you know, we do a lot through networking. And because we represent hundreds of different clients, they are specific of what they're looking for. And we've found networking to be a huge success, especially for students that are leaving college and are looking for something at a skilled level. And that's been pretty successful on our end. As far as screening applicants, we do have an applicant tracking system. So we will house those candidates from the first time that they enter their application into our system. Sometimes we can help them immediately. Sometimes they know that they won't be looking for 3 months or 6 months down the road. And so we can revisit their application at that time. And we also know that things change. So if someone moves or they decide that their career choice at that point in time is not what they initially thought it would be, we can kind of help move that candidate through the system of basically what would be a good fit for them. But platforms, definitely, we do go through colleges and look for those seniors that are entering the workforce, especially in Missouri, that want to stay local. And then, of course, you know, like LinkedIn, that's huge. Your professional presence out there is everything. A number of employers, that'll be the first thing that they do is they go look and see who you are. And LinkedIn, you know, if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, we definitely recommend that you do have one. And if you do have other social media platforms out there, make sure that they represent a good picture of you. So.
Thanks, Chris. Courtney, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, so the Missouri Department of Social Services is a one department within the executive branch of the state of Missouri government. And so there are 16 different departments that actively hire employees to join the state of Missouri employment. We really look at ourselves as the state of Missouri is one employer as a whole, with lots and lots of different little departments and pods and divisions in which you can enter into. I specifically represent the Department of Social Services. We have about 6,000 team members. We do review all of our job applications in person. So when a person applies for a position, the very first thing that we take a look at is, do you meet the minimum requirements that are set by the state of Missouri for the position in which you've applied? You're either going to be eligible to be considered for that position or not eligible based on the minimum requirements. So some positions may say you need 2 to 4 years customer service experience. And if you've demonstrated that on your resume and application, you move on to the next step. Some may say you need a bachelor's degree and proof of that in your transcripts. And if you've demonstrated that, then you move on to a hiring manager. So the hiring manager then reviews the eligible resumes and applications and determines whether or not they would like to interview that person, and they move forward with the interview and hiring process. So they all, every one of them are looked at by a human. We do use an applicant tracking system as well. It's mocareers.mo.gov is where all state of Missouri job listings are posted. And it also is our online application platform. So lots of folks, because they see my name on things, they try to email me their resume or email me a generic application. And unfortunately, I have to respond back and let them know that the only method for consideration for state of Missouri employment is to start the application process online through the Mo Careers app. We use, for recruitment purposes, we use a lot of social media platforms. The one that I wish was the most beneficial to us is the Handshake platform for college students. We just don't have great success and great engagement with Handshake. I've been posting positions there for years, and we even host job fairs there, and there's just not a lot of activity on Handshake. And so We do a little more grassroots level, grassroots style recruitment and some organic methods, and just getting our own team members to post our advertisements on their social media platforms. So I tell our folks all the time, there's no better person to recruit a children's service worker in Taney County, Missouri than a children's service worker that lives in Taney County, Missouri. I live in Lake of the Ozarks. I don't even know where Taney County is, right? So you'll see a lot of different frontline level team members that are posting advertisements and maybe sharing to their Twitter or their LinkedIn or their Instagram or their Facebook, hey, come work with me. We use the hashtag #WeServeMo. And so you'll find a lot of state of Missouri advertisements under the #WeServeMo hashtag, or work with me are the two hashtags that we use for recruitment purposes. We also post positions outside at jobs.mo.gov. I come from a background of working in the career centers and job centers. And so we post a lot of positions to jobs.mo.gov. Indeed does scrape our job postings, and but the information, because they're a crawler website and they scrape, the information isn't always 100% accurate. And so just because you click the link and fill out an application with Indeed doesn't necessarily mean that that imported to our Mo Careers website and we actually got your application. So that causes some confusion with applicants. I think LinkedIn is a great resource. We do have a state of Missouri person that sources. There are recruiter seats available, and they do searching and sourcing and send in mails to folks and tell people, hey, we've got this position, you may be interested. One of the biggest problems we have is that folks create an Indeed account and then they don't stay active on it. So we send in mails to people and say, hey, we've got these opportunities, and they go unread. Nobody ever sees them. So if you set up an Indeed account, or if you have that, employers are using that to look for you, but you're maybe missing out on an opportunity just by not keeping up with the messages and the communication that's happening there. And Megan asked what I meant by organic. So lots of folks use, you've heard some of the other leaders mention that they use ZipRecruiter or Monster or Career Builder. So lots of folks use paid methods of advertising their positions through third-party entities. And because we're the state of Missouri and we don't have a whole lot of money, and the governor put us on a spending freeze due to COVID. So organically, meaning just at a personal level, we've just been doing whatever we can that's free to get the word out.
Courtney, you mentioned a little bit ago, you might want to mute yourself.
Oh.
I don't like hearing myself, and then it just echoes there. Sorry. So Courtney, you mentioned a little bit ago, and I'd like all of you to respond to this if you will, how you sometimes get individuals sending you their resume because they see your information, listed places, or they have your business card, when they should be submitting it through the online application system. What do you, are individuals able to reach out if they have questions? So not necessarily they are going to send you their resume to apply, but do you encourage people to reach out if they have questions about the job description, or they have questions about maybe wanting clarification on something that they've read?
Absolutely. At the bottom of all of our job announcements, actually all of the state of Missouri job announcements, there's going to be either a phone number or an email address, maybe both, of a person to contact if you have questions about the job description, or maybe you have questions about the hiring process, or if you have trouble. There's also a statement there for assistive technology if you need assistance or an accommodation to complete your application, to reach out to me for support. A lot of times we'll run into people that email me a resume or an application, and it really is a great opportunity for me to just start a conversation with them. Like, what type of employment are you interested in? based on the position that you said you're interested in, here are some recommendations I can make for you, things you need to include on your resume or your application. So it's super helpful that our information is out there, and we strongly encourage people to ask questions and ask me. I have folks that just ask me up front, I want a job in finance with the state of Missouri. What do I need to do to get that job? How do I need to tailor this resume, or what does my cover letter need to look like? And that's great because ultimately it saves time for our hiring managers and it makes a better candidate experience overall.
Okay, thank you. Andrea or Chris, do you want to respond to that question? Or I can move on.
Sure. We also do welcome questions. That gives us an opportunity to, like Courtney had, start a conversation with the individual. And a lot of employers these days are really focused on culture. And they are not only looking for your skill set, but they're looking to see if you're a good fit within their culture. And the best way to do that is to have those conversations. So we always do welcome them and give them avenues of whether it's an email or a phone number. We do a lot of Zoom interviews these days, but we still do see people in person. And honestly, that's the best approach, is being proactive in your application rather than reactive. So absolutely, we would welcome any questions and feedback that candidates have through the process.
We're the same way. We hire a lot of different arenas of our business, but the majority of the roles that I'm trying to hire for are salespeople. If you want to be a salesperson, you need to be tenacious and driven, and you need to take ownership of things. So I will literally never turn down I got an email from someone yesterday. They're like, hey, I saw this job. I've heard a lot about the business. Can we chat? Absolutely. He's coming in on Thursday for an interview at 3:30. So it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. If you're applying for a role with a group that's a little more risk conservative, in my opinion, your accounting, your purchasing, those types of things, they aren't quite as flexible. They aren't quite as aggressive a lot of times. And not that they're not flexible, but what they have is a more defined method of appropriateness for the work. It also, I think, depends on the size of the business. We were interviewing a lot of people in Missouri. We get to meet a lot of people in person. It depends on the caliber of the role as well. If you're applying for a $16, $15 an hour warehouse role, the process probably that you're going to follow is a little different than you're looking for a role where you're going to make $100,000 as a commission salesperson. These are different types of engagement. As a recruiter and as the HR manager for the company, I love when people ask me questions about what to expect, what is next, what is the proper way to communicate with you, how can I meet your expectations. You should be interviewing us as we are, as much or more than we are interviewing you, because our business needs to be the right fit for you. I find that a lot of my conversations, we had an interview right before this meeting today, and she said, well, what is next? And I said, well, it's my job to provide you enough information as a recruiter and advocate of this business so that you can decide if we're the right fit for you. And then after that, if you let us know and you communicate that back to us, then we'll decide how you might best fit into the business, and we'll escalate from there. But every business does it a little bit differently. Ours being a small business in comparison to Courtney, working with the state, the processes are a little more defined, but questions are always good. It's an indicator of how you'll be an employee as well. Are you going to presume things? Are you going to ask me? Are you going to work in the parameters of that? So you are creating in your interactions, whether you like it, acknowledge it, or accept it or not, that you are building these perceptions in our minds about how you will operate as an employee. And you're entirely in control of those. So make them what you want them to be.
Thank you. So we have a question in the chat box. Do you recommend that students apply directly to your website? If so, what is the advantage to doing that?
I would say we do recommend candidates apply directly to the website. And the reason for that is there are hundreds of applicants out there. And honestly, employers who utilize several different avenues to get a candidate pool, they can be very overwhelming to the employer. And the employers will see a number of spam that come in through those different avenues that we use, recruiting sites and stuff like that. So if you apply directly through the website, I feel like that's just a first line of, getting your foot in the door, getting recognized versus waiting to be, accepted through 200 other applicants that have applied. And we know that out of those 200, maybe half or a third of those are actually someone who's actually looked at the job description, they qualify for it, and they haven't just gone through and clicked apply. So definitely recommend applying directly through the website.
Also, there's a lot of applicant tracking systems. So if you apply through the website and then follow up with me, that would be the ideal scenario for me, because I know that you're interested. You have put your information into the system. So it's parsed in, it's taken electronically from your resume, filled in all of the fields, and then I can move you electronically through my system. Otherwise, if you only apply via email, then I have to put your stuff in manually, and the likelihood that your information is going to move through as quickly isn't as great. It doesn't mean that it won't happen. And you can even go so far as to apply on the website and then follow up with an email in your resume. Like, you'll see my resume in ZipRecruiter or through your website, but I wanted to make sure that you had it handy to see if there was any questions, maybe something that I missed. So those are ways that you can layer for both clarity, and it gives a sense of eagerness. And then you're also making it easier for the recruiters to engage with you also, because if I can hit reply, it's a lot easier. A forward of you through my system, it's a lot easier than trying to, you should see my desk and the resumes that are here on my desk right now, than trying to make sure that I'm moving everyone through the process in the most efficient way.
Okay, thank you. And Courtney, I saw you responded also in the chat. So in the next set of questions is just about how recruiting has changed since March 2020. What are tips that you have for students who are conducting a job or internship search during this pandemic? And I know we're kind of hopefully on the tail end with all the vaccines going out, but there's still a huge repercussion from what has happened over the past year. And what are your job search tips specifically for our graduating seniors? Because they are a little bit more, they need a little bit more advice because time's a ticking.
I think you should be brave. I think you should consider things that you don't know maybe that you want to do. I never thought I wanted to be in HR, to be honest. I liked people, so I was a salesperson, and I was a good salesperson, but I'm much better at this than I was at that. And I sell harder now as a recruiter than I've ever sold, frankly, as a salesperson. And so I think being open to new opportunities. As a recruiter, I find it really helpful to ask people what problems they like to solve. So if you had the answer to that question, I like people problems, or I like number problems, or I like data problems, or I like efficiency problems, or whatever the case might be, whatever kind of makes your boat float a little bit. If you can articulate that to me, makes it easier for me to understand how to put you into my business. And also knowing what you don't want to do. I do not want to be that person that sits down and does data analysis. I don't want to do all of these spreadsheets. I don't want to be alone. I need people in collaboration, and I want to make mistakes and be held accountable. And I want to know my work is critical to our success. So you don't have to know exactly what you want to do, but by knowing what you don't want to do and knowing what things you're good at and empowered by, that's really helpful. We have a communication survey I would love to send to you, Haley, Jacob, and Labria. If you're interested, it talks about communication styles and drivers. It's been very, very helpful for our staff. So I'd love to send it to you. And I'm sure that Chris and Courtney are of the same mindset. I feel really strongly that it's my job to help support the leaders of our community. You might not be wanting to work in my business in industrial distribution. It's not super sexy, but it is fun and it's crazy. And I never dreamed it would be those things. but I know a lot of people in the community. I'm on the board of the HR group for Central Missouri. I know the HR recruiters, so we can connect you to people even if you don't want to necessarily work with us. So leverage the networking that we talked about earlier. Send me your resume. If you want someone to pick apart your resume or read a cover letter, I am happy to do that for you. I can tell you what I like about it, what I don't. If you don't take any of my suggestions, there is no skin off my nose. But if you think I can help you, I would love to do that. So take people up on offers like that. Those would be some of my best advice.
Yeah, and so my opinion, how things have changed through the whole COVID and the pandemic, it's definitely changed on our end in servicing the clients that we do in Missouri. So we have to work 3 times as hard right now, and our employers do as well. Some employers have downsized, or they have a lot of their internal staff that are working remotely. Things have slowed up somewhat on their end, or they may not have as many staff as what they used to before. So we do have to work 3 times as hard finding candidates. And the recommendation that I'll give students is, if you can display a work ethic and you have strong organizational skills and those basic day-to-day skills, showing up on time, shaking a hand when you can. I know that's a little more difficult now, but any of those soft skills, employers are, they tell me every single day. Like, if they have a candidate that's maybe not 100% qualified for what they're asking for, maybe you're only 75%, but you display strong communication skills, strong organizational skills, and you're hungry, so you're willing to get out there and do the work, they will a lot of times accept you as a position in their company, because that is a big piece of what they're missing, they're looking for. And so that's the biggest piece I think that's important, is look at other positions maybe you're not 100% qualified for, but don't overlook them. If you possess those other skills, there's a good chance that you could get your foot in the door at those companies. So
I would absolutely echo Chris and Andrea, and just add that I cannot stress enough. Let us know, like Andrea said, what drives you and what you don't want to do. With the Missouri Department of Social Services, we have, it's so funny that I work with pharmacists, and I work with lawyers, and I work with cops, and I work with cooks. Every possible job you could imagine is housed somewhere within what we do. We have investigators that go out and investigate food stamp fraud, or child protection workers. We have one area that works very specialized auditing and budgeting. So any type of position you could imagine is somewhere within what we do. So when you know what drives you and what you want to do, as well as what you don't want to do, and are able to express that in who you are with your introduction, that's going to help us to be able to fit you in. Tell me who you are and what you're looking for. I think I turn my ears and eyes off when I hear the I'm a team player, I'm dependable, I'm organized. Like, so back in the day, whenever we could do in-person recruiting, I could see your face, I could watch your whole body language, I could watch you in a job fair and maybe visit with you for a little while longer. Now I'm mainly just reading what you have to say on a piece of paper, and they all say that. So tell me who you really are and what you're really interested in. Tell me what qualities you have and why you're going to make a great addition to the state of Missouri team. And even if you aren't exactly sure what position that you qualify for, by knowing who you are and what you want to do, that's going to help me to figure out what positions would be best for you, and what positions you should take a look at. Our law enforcement positions that we have, takes a completely different kind of person than our child welfare worker positions, which takes a completely different kind of person than our food stamp call center people. So each one of those jobs takes a different skill set and a different type of personality. So there's really room for everyone, but it's up to you to let us know and let me know where you're going to best fit and how you're going to be able to sell yourself, I think is the biggest change that COVID has brought on.
For all the panelists there, Mandy, we do have a question in the chat box from Meg. Do any of you have a testing that is required as a prereq for any of your positions?
We definitely do. Some of our clients that are looking for specific skills, and we have an entire platform that we can test from just your basic customer service skills all the way up to, accounting skills. There's probably thousands of tests in there. And sometimes we, students before or candidates, if they don't really know if they're completely qualified or completely comfortable, we might take them through that test and just give them an idea of what that employer is looking for. And that kind of saves our client time, that saves the candidate time. So yeah, we have lots of those skill set tests that we utilize.
We give everyone a general test, an employment test before they start. It doesn't necessarily rule them out, but it is a good indicator of the pace of our business and the compatibility. We also send those surveys that I mentioned. We leverage those in order to make sure that the role is in alignment with the employee and not to rule people out. It's that my expectations, if they are here, that what you can provide is also at here, or if what you have is here, that I am not basically twisting you into something that you're really not during the day. It's very important. There's a lot of very aggressive jobs that require a lot of different skill sets. So we don't have anything as far as like typing tests or math tests or anything like that. You do have to have a certain set of qualifications to be a graphic designer or a staff accountant, some of that stuff. But a lot of the other things that we are doing, because our industries are so niche, cell phone tower maintenance, wind and solar energy, theatrical venues, general contracting and construction, things like that. These are acquired skills that we then educate you afterwards. So we know that you're not going to come to the table with a lot of the specialized skills. Sometimes that can be tested out for other types of roles. We try to, again, do the solid alignment, making sure that you have that. And then we continue to build the information and the knowledge of the employee as they come on board, if we think that we might be the right fit for them. And then they decide that we are for them too. So.
We just have one position that does have a test as part of the prerequisite, and it happens during the interview process. It is a case analysis that the applicant has to review. It's a child welfare case. The applicant has to review the case analysis, identify questions that they would ask as a follow-up to the case and the police documents that they received, and then they have to prepare a written assessment based on what they learned. And so that's a typed assessment. So it's kind of a three-part thing. The first part is their ability to read and understand what happened. The second part is their ability to identify inconsistencies in the testimonies and to ask follow-up questions to clarify those things. And then the last part being the ability to type and formulate a proper sentence and something that looks appropriate to submit to a court if necessary.
Thank you. So we'll move on to our next set of questions, and that's really about the resume. Is resume formatting important to you design-wise? As in, do you prefer a standard outline? Do you like, or do you mind if there's some, creative kind of graphics on the resume? And when there are human eyes on the resume, how long do you spend reviewing that document? And what do you look for specifically? And what do you say no to immediately? Like you look at it and you're like, nope, and you toss it.
So I'd say you've got about 10 seconds to capture my attention and make me want to read the rest. Employers do get a lot of resumes, and that the first thing I'm going to look at is your name, and then I'm going to move on to the very first thing that you present to me. And there are a lot of different formats out there for resumes, but you definitely, within that very first page or very first segment of your resume, you want to present who you are, the skills, and a little bit about what you can bring to the organization. Generic resumes, we can look at those and see that they're pretty generic. So if you can capture the employer's attention within like the first 10 seconds, they're going to read the rest of your resume and want to find out more about you. If you have typos or you have not followed directions, which means if the employer's requested a resume from you and they've asked you to either include a cover letter, or they've asked you a very specific, 3 questions to submit with the resume. If you don't follow the instructions, probably it's going to get thrown out for most positions, just because that is one reason why they put that in there, just to see if you are going to read through everything that's required. That says a lot about you. So and then specifically, looking for a little bit about who you are, your character, and then and I know sometimes this is difficult, but I see it over and over again. Your longevity at a position is vital. If you worked 2 months here, another 2 months over here, another 3 months over here, then that almost loses the employer's interest, especially if they're looking for a long-term employee. Retention is a huge issue amongst employers. It costs them money, it costs them time. And if you can identify an employer that you want to work for in a position, and even if it's not what you thought it was going to be and you want to do something else, talking to your HR managers, talking to your direct report, and learn everything you can so you can progress into another role within that company. I'm not saying you don't ever want to change jobs, but the more that you can make your current position work and use that as stepping stones, whether being promoted. But that is a big thing that employers look for today. They're almost scared to hire or employ or interview someone who is changing positions every few months. So,
or if you change, be prepared to proactively talk about why. Like, I left this because it wasn't a good values fit for me, and it's not like, oh, my dog died and then my girlfriend broke up with me, and then not that, but make this a logical, strategical reason for choosing. I needed more hours, or I wanted to move closer to my family. So calling out, someone asked me one time, basically, how do you call out the elephant in the room? And the only way I know how is by first name. If you have a lot of jumping around on your resume, be prepared to proactively talk about it. Send that email, put it in your cover letter. Like, this is why I would be good. Tailor them, please. If you're applying for a sales job, don't send me a resume where you want to be a medical transcriptionist. You did not try. You didn't even try. You didn't even bother. Asking about the formatting, I have 2 resumes here on my desk right now. Which one of these to you is more dynamic? Which one do you want to read? It's this one, right? It's organized, it's clear, it's not quite so verbose. It's too much, it's very overwhelming. What that says to me is that this person is not really sure exactly what the value they provided was. So they're giving me every single thing that they want to do, and they don't really know, and they're trying to create one resume for all the jobs that they're ever going to apply for. And I'm part of this blanket toss that they're doing. So knowing that you're excited about applying for my job automatically gives you a step up in what's happening. If resumes are really elaborate, what I have found from academic candidates like yourselves is they're usually marketing students. There's a lot of information, there's a lot of different colors, there's a lot of pictures and formatting and fonting, and that is more finesse than it is content. And it's not fooling anyone. Not that you're trying to do that, but if you're a barista on the morning shift at Starbucks, dude, you can do anything. People are hangry, they're mean, they're specific. Food service is one of my very favorite things, especially someone that has longevity with it. If you can get my venti grandi blah, 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 and you keep coming to work 6 months in a row as a barista from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. before you go to classes, you're awesome. Please don't discount food service. Don't ever discount food service. It's one of my very favorite things. So the other thing is too, is if you're an academic candidate, we know you probably don't have that much job history. We understand that about you. So tell us what you were doing. So did you have extracurriculars? Did you volunteer anywhere? Were you a part of things? You know, a college degree is almost an expectation everywhere now, but it doesn't mean who you are. You have to still give us some of that. If you got your degree and you didn't have a job and you had no extracurriculars, did you play video games the whole time? We're not 100% sure. So tell us who you are. Build something about us in your mind. It goes back to that perceptions thing. You are responsible for telling the story of yourself on paper, and your people there at school, they do this for a living. They talk to us all the time. They know what we want. Ask them questions. We want to hire you. We're just trying to figure out who to give our money to. So make yourself look like the best candidate. I promise you, we're all just trying to give you our money. We want to give you our money. So that's my 10 cents.
Thanks, Andrea. I am not personally a fan of very graphic and maze. I think it's fabulous if you love horses. Like there's no need to put those on there. And so we do spend quite a bit of time looking at the resume, because that is where we look to see if you're qualified for the position. Back to that entry level, or that, you know, that first phase of the application process is, do you meet the minimum requirements or not? And so we have to dig in and look at that. Do not lie on your resume. If you have not graduated college, don't put that you graduated college. If you only have a bachelor's degree, don't put that you have a master's degree. Because if you put that you have a bachelor's degree with the state of Missouri, we have to have your transcripts to support that. Because in many of our positions, it'll say like you need 2 to 4 years customer service experience or a bachelor's degree. So in however we qualify you, it has to be documented in your personnel file. So if you say I have a bachelor's degree and I see you don't have any customer service experience, and then I go to offer you a job and you can't actually provide me with a transcript that shows you have a bachelor's degree, you're out of job, and now you're probably not going to get a job with us. Versus if you said, hey, I don't have my bachelor's degree yet. Where do I fit? What can I do? So be super honest on that. Don't tell me, don't give me a job description on your resume. Tell me what you did and what you accomplished there. So we all know what an accountant does. They like crunch numbers and make money move and make things come out in the end in the budget. Like they keep us all up straight and alive and walking financially. We all know that part. But what did you do there? What did you accomplish there? What were your personal achievements and what are you most proud of with your time there? I tell folks all the time in my previous employment before our contract ended and I came into state employment, I was there for 15 years. And when I got that job, I worked at McDonald's. I was a single mom working at a McDonald's, and I didn't even know how to type. I took typing in high school, but I failed it. I don't have a college degree, but from McDonald's, I got the job. The guy come in the first day and he starts talking to me and I'm supposed to be typing what he said. And I was like, whoa, hold on. I don't know how to do this. So every time I didn't have a customer in my office, I was practicing online at typingtest.com and learning to teach myself how to type. 15 years later, when my office closed and I lost my job, I was able to step into a position in human resources with the state of Missouri with no college education, with no human resource experience. So that longevity and commitment to work and those skills that are transferable will take you so far. So make sure that you're really highlighting those and what your personal achievements and accomplishments are.
Thank you. So we just have a few more minutes left. Is there anything you all, our panelists, would like to share with our participants here?
So I would say, and I don't know if we're probably not going to be able to get to the last set of questions, but so following up with your application, that's a must. You definitely want to do that. It shows you're proactively interested in the position. I would check in on your application after about a week unless the instructions say differently. And then if you get an interview, I would send a fun but professional written thank you card to the person you interviewed with. That makes us really happy. And we'll look at your application again. It's that personal touch, and it's very old school, but we do like that. So that's my recommendation.
You would also be in like 1% of candidates if you do that.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I still have the 2 that I've gotten in 3 years. So if you want to set yourself apart, do that. Someone one time, and you don't have to go this far, someone one time sent us donuts from Harold's Donuts to the office as a thank you, and we hired him. We do not hire anyone. I do not extend an offer to anyone, regardless of the role. If it's a part-time intern, if they do not follow up, I do not extend them an offer. If they cannot follow up and say, thank you for having me in, and they're just waiting and twiddling their thumbs for me to magically pick them out of the bucket, we do not present them an offer. We are not that interested. It kind of goes the same way. We don't know that you want to work here. I mean it very seriously when I say you need to decide if we might be the right fit for you. That's a big deal. And then I know I said this earlier, but be brave. And I kind of said it jokingly, but there is such an interesting job market that's happening right now. We're getting ghosted because people are coming to, or they show up and they bomb their interviews. They have to be intentional because they can't be this bad in order to get unemployment benefits. If you have a work ethic and you have values and you want to do a good job, what we need is the trifecta. It's energy, integrity, and intelligence. It doesn't mean that you have to be the smartest person in the room. If you're in that room, you're in the wrong room. We expect that you'll make mistakes, but be brave, do a good job, say what you need, and speak up. We can't continue to grow our business and grow from, I think we were a $12 million company when I started 6 years ago. We did almost $80 million in 70 countries last year with 102 employees. Like, we're doing stuff. We are doing a lot of stuff. So if that isn't what you want, I presume that's the case when you don't follow up. But be brave. We're trying to pick the greatest people to give you our money, and we want you to be successful. If we've invited you to our table, you are hands down the best possible candidate that we could find for the role. So embrace it. Come and be awesome. We presume that you're going to be great. All you have to do is just show up and prove it.
We love enthusiastic people who have a servant's heart. In the state of Missouri, we don't do this for the money. Social service work is not a big market, big money job. Okay, so if you plan to get rich, you need to go talk to Andrea or Chris or somebody else, because that's not going to happen here. We look for individuals who truly have a heart to be public servants. That's what we are. Our role is to serve Missourians, and specifically Missourians who are considered to be the most vulnerable. So those who are most in need within the state. And so we definitely do look for folks that have the right heart and have a passion to serve. But at the same time, keep in mind that there are those behind the scenes positions that are required as well. So those accountant positions and other leadership positions. When you begin looking for employment, do not be afraid to accept a position that is maybe less than the pay you thought you were going to get, or the position that you had picked for yourself. So if you thought, because I have a bachelor's degree and I have completed the requirements to be a CPA, I want this senior accountant in grants management, you're probably not going to get that position right out of college. So don't be afraid to accept an accounts assistant position and work your way up into that. It's very hard in state government to come in to executive level positions with no foundational experience in state government.
Thank you, ladies. I know, I mean, we had a whole bunch more questions on that list, but we are out of time for our attendees. So we'll have this posted on our Student Success Center YouTube channel page. At the top of the chat box, the link is there. So you'll be able to access this sometime late this afternoon. To our panelists, ladies, thank you so much for joining us today. Michelle and I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to speak to our students and Meg and ourselves too, because Michelle and I have learned a lot today too. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much for your guys' time today. It's really helpful.
For the students here, if you are actively searching for a job, reach out to Michelle. On my screen, she's center. She's the center image, the Brady Bunch here. But reach out to Michelle. She is here to help you with your job search. Okay. But thank you all and have a good day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
It was great.
Thanks, everyone.